Hi, it's John Glynn. I'm going to be looking at the Marquee tool today in Photoshop Elements 20. Marquee tool is in your toolbox near the top. If you see it, it'll look like a little square usually. Rectangular Marquee tool. Click on that and options for that particular tool will appear at the bottom of your screen. And you'll have a rectangular marquee tool, and next to that one on the right hand side, if you click on it, an elliptical marquee tool. Okay, so those are the two we're going to look at today, or one, because they both work the same way. The other thing we're going to look at is the color options. You've got color in your toolbox, so black and white. If it's not black and white, you have tiny little black and white squares on the left. If you click them, it will make the two main squares black and white, and you can also have a two-way arrow and you can flip them. Okay, so you can have white and black or any and other colors, which we will come to as well. And we're also going to look at very basic sort of layers issues, which will be looked at as well. So we'll just get started. First instance, what I'm going to do is create a new file, a blank file. This is the sort of thing that you would do if you were creating a birthday card or Christmas card, something like that. You could create a blank file. So you're going to go to File, New, Blank File, and you can find in here different sizes. You put your own size of paper in that you wish to print onto, or you may find that there's other sizes which fit your particular need. In here, international papers, A4, A5, A6 is under international paper. I'm just going to run with default Photoshop, and the background color that I'm going to choose is white. Okay, but again, you can choose other colors, and the color mode will be color. I'm going to say OK, and I have a white sheet of paper effectively. Now I can start using my marquee, the rectangular marquee tool. So I can actually draw that onto my white sheet of paper, and when I put my mouse on my white sheet of paper, you'll see there's little crosshairs. If I hold down the left mouse key, I'm using a PC by the way, if I hold down my left mouse key and drag, I can get a marquee. You'll see little lines like little ants walking around there. And what does that do? We can move it. We can start to work within the marquee. Things that we want to do to our pictures will, if we draw a marquee, will only work within the marquee. Okay, so I'll show you what we can do in the marquee in a second. But we can marquees are selections effectively, and so everything we're going to do here will also come up in the general sort of selection tools that you have in your toolbox. So this is why it's quite handy to get you sort of used to an idea of what the marquees can actually do, and it's quite a good way of practicing it. If we go to the very bottom of your monitor where you get the choices as to what you can do with the marquee, you'll find that there's a new. I've got a new. We got to add to a selection, and you can also subtract from a selection. So if we wanted to add to this selection, I could click on add, put my mouse inside and create another shape, and you can see that it's adding to the selection. I can work from the inside out and it adds to the shape. It doesn't have to be hugely accurate with your picking up. I'll get rid of some rubbish that pops up on my monitor. So I can sort of create shapes, okay, almost like a room. So I can do that kind of thing. I can also take away from the shape, subtract from the shape. It's my phone going. Subtract from the shape, and so I can work again from the outside in, and you can see that I can subtract from the shape. Okay, so just getting used to adding and subtracting and using your mouse to do it is useful. You can use your shift key and your alternative key for doing these things as well actually. So if I'll just show you, it's on, if I go back to add, I've got a little plus sign. If I hold down the alternative key on my keyboard, I now have a minus sign. So instead of me having to go down here and click on these, I can leave it on the plus, so I'm adding to my selection, hold down the alternative key, the Alt key on my keyboard, and I've immediately got the alternative. Okay, let go of the Alt key and I'm back to plus. It's a little bit quicker way of working. The final one they have here, which is intersect with selection, I'll show you what happens. It removes a lot of the shape, okay, just changes it. So that's doing an intersect. You're just left with bits of the shape, okay. Just a matter of trying them out and seeing how you get on. I'm going to do new again. To clear the shape, if you wish to clear it, if it's not the right size or you've done it in the wrong place, you can move it holding down the left mouse key, and I'm in the middle of the shape, allows me to move the shape. I can click just once with the left mouse key and the shape will vanish and let me draw again. Click once with the left mouse key, there you see it goes, as long as I'm inside the shape. If the other way of getting rid of it is to go to the very top of your picture area, up the very top you've got the toolbar at the very top. Along the toolbar you have select, and if you click deselect it will also clear it. Okay, so that's another option. You can go to select and deselect, will also clear. So there are different ways of doing the same thing. I'm going to draw that square again. Down the bottom again, we've got a thing called feathering. Feathering is where you can soften that edge. Basically, if it's unsharp, if it's unsoftened, basically it will look like you've cut it with a pair of scissors or a knife, and may look a little bit obvious in a photograph. So we would feather it, and that will soften the edges of this selection and maybe blend it into the rest of the image. Now it's very difficult to tell how much I've softened it. As you can tell, you can't see that easily on this particular image here. But so we've got refine edge. Refine edge changes our way of relating to the selection, the white being what I've selected and the black being the unselected area. And if I go up into view in the view mode and click on that, I have it, I can do it on marching ants, which is what we've just had, overlay, on black, on white. Obviously we can't see it on white because it's a white background. On black again, black and white. On layers, I don't have any layers below the layer. So on my right hand side I've got my layers panel, and my background is the white sheet of paper. There's nothing behind it. That's why it becomes a checkerboard. If I had an image behind this one, underneath this one, I would be able to see it, because this checkerboard here means that it's transparent. I can see through it to anything below on my layers, which we will look at in a minute as well. So reveal layer just shows you what it would be like without the selection. But if I put it onto black and then I start to just play around with the feathering, which was what we were mentioning earlier, you can start seeing the impact on my image. It softens those edges, and the bigger the feather, the softer it gets. Now it's equal on both sides. Okay, so it's equal into the black as well as into the white. So it's not, you can't really tell on the black because it's black, but it would be equally soft on the dark side as well. Okay, smoothing is like a very sort of low level feathering, and a lot of people might use smooth and feather in combination. So smooth is doing something similar, but not to the same extent as just feathering. If I feather that and then do contrast, you can see that the contrast sharpens the selection. Okay, so it sort of countermands the feathering. Again, you may use these in combination on pictures. And shifting edges is if your selection of an object in a photograph is not perfect, you can to some extent shift the edge to make it closer or further away from the object. It won't work on this because I haven't actually selected anything as an object. Output is how you're going to put it into layers, which is on the right hand side, and we will come to that in a second, but I've got new layer, a layer with a layer mask and things like that. So there's different ways of outputting your picture or your selection. At the moment I'm just going to leave it as it is and say cancel. And we've also got at the very bottom of our monitor again aspect. At the moment it's a freehand, I'm just drawing it, I'm just drawing as I wish, but you can do fixed sizes and fixed ratios if you're wanting to. Generally speaking, I just leave it on a freehand. Anti-aliasing is to do with just getting a smooth edge, and usually it would be ticked on for most of the selections. Okay, just to help getting a smooth edge. Okay, now for colouring, I'm going to just choose a different colour from black. So if I'm doing a colour on a background, I could click on these coloured squares at the bottom of my toolbox, and I've got a thing called foreground colour. Foreground colour will be picked up by the paint bucket tool. That's the one I'm going to use. So I'm going to go to foreground colour. I'll choose blue just because it's different. I can move this up and down by just dragging with my mouse, a slider, choose a different colour, move my mouse into the colour I wish to choose, click once with the left mouse key, just holding it there, say OK. You see the current colour is black, the new colour will be this shade of blue, say OK. Now to make it fill that space, I go to my paint bucket, put my paint bucket inside the selected area and click once with the left mouse key, and lo and behold, I now have a new colour. If I wanted a different colour, I can go back to my foreground colour. I could choose a different colour. I'll choose green this time, so I'll just click it, say OK. It now becomes green. I can put my mouse inside the selected area and click once with the left mouse key. I now have green. Okay. If I'm outside the selected area, nothing should happen. I'll just try blue, say OK. I'm just going to make sure that's true here. Yeah, nothing happens because I'm outside of that selected area. Okay, so it won't work. But go inside and click once with the left mouse key, and it now becomes that new colour. Okay, it's the foreground colour that the paint bucket picks up on, not the background colour. If you're wanting to colour the background, I've made this selection and it's blue, and I'd actually like to have the white area a different colour. Then I don't reselect the background. All I need to do is go up to select in the top toolbar, go to select in the top toolbar and say inverse. And if I inverse the selection, I now get a marquee tool, a marquee, a little dotted lines all the way around the outside of my image, and it's still there on the inner part as well, but now it's this area here that becomes active, this white area. So now I'll choose a different colour, and this time I will choose a sort of browny orange colour, and I'll say OK, and I can now go to this white area and I click inside here this time, and it will now select that part of the picture area. So inversing the selection does the outer edge or the outside of your selection. Okay, it's just getting used to that concept, so it's worth having a go. And you get, when you click on the paint bucket, other options will appear at the bottom. By the way, whenever you click on any tool in the toolbox, you'll get a choice of options at the bottom related to that specific tool. Okay, that's how this kind of thing works. Now, as you can see, if you go over to my, on the far right hand side here, you can see that I've got a background, and it's happened on the background. All of this is happening in one, if you like, in one photograph. This is like a photograph that you're looking at, and therefore it's happening in one space. There it is. There's a limit to what more I can do with it, but I can do a lot more if I create layers. So I'm going to quickly go through that just so you can then practice yours at home, trying this sort of thing out, and it introduces you to more complicated concepts later on in a fairly simple way. So I'm going to actually undo what I've just been doing. Okay, so I'm going to go to Window and History. If I go to History, it shows you everything I've been doing. You can do 25 histories, 25 or 50 rather. You can do 50 of these actions before number 51 becomes the new action. Okay, so I can undo all of these by clicking on it, click the right mouse key and say delete, clear history, yes, and now I'm back to just the news. So I'm back to square one. I'm going to go back to my original black and white on the left hand side on the toolbar. Just click the black and white square. So now black and white. I'm going to go back up to my marquee, and this time I'll use the elliptical tool. Elliptical tool works in the same way as the rectangular tool. It's the same idea. Here we have the elliptical. I've just made a sort of rugby ball shape, oval. I'm going to go down to refine edge, and in refine edge I can do a little bit of softening if I wish to, and I can play around with smoothing and just try things out down here. And the selection, I'm just going to say new layer. Okay, new layer will create a layer above my background, so I'm just going to click that and say OK. And now you can see that I've got a white elliptical that I created just now with a transparent layer behind it, and at the moment that transparent layer doesn't see anything because my background layer, which was white, is switched off. So a little magic eye in the layer palette, and if I click the magic eye it will switch on, click it again, it turns off. This allows me to play with the shape independently of the background. So I can now go to my colors and I'll click on, I'll go back to, I'll do a green and say OK. I'll choose that color and say OK, and then I'm going to go to my paint bucket. I'm going to fill that shape with green, and then I'm going to go up to the window in the top toolbar, and in that I'm going to click on a thing called styles. And in styles I can choose things like shadows, and I can go to let's just do bevels. I can choose a bevel, and it's a matter of just trying them out. This is all under styles, you can have a go, and then I can say that's fine, that's okay, I don't mind that. I can go back to my layer, and I can either go back to window and layers, so I can click on layers again. It's off. If it's got a little tick it's on, and if, because I've got history open, as you can see, layers is switched off. So I'm going to click layers. There's my layers, they're back again. You'll also find the same options at the very bottom of your monitor. There's layers, and there's also styles can be picked up there as well. Okay, so it's not just under window. I have a little FX in the layers palette. FX. If I click on that, double click it with the left mouse key, in fact, it opens up a sub menu, and now I've got drop shadow, and under the drop shadow excuse me, I can size the drop shadow, change the size of the drop shadow, change the distance it is from my subject, change the opacity, and I've also got glow and I've got bevel. You can try these out. Bevel allows me to increase the bevel so it becomes more like a lozenge sort of thing, and you can change it. Direction can be switched round, down, up, down, up, so you can play around with those sort of things. You've also your shadow is black. You could click on that because you might prefer to have a different shade of shadow. Say OK, I now got a blue shadow. Now to see that with the background, with the white, all I do is go up to my layers panel at the top here on the right hand side, and I've got a little magic eye. If I make sure that the magic eye has not got a line through it, oh, I need to say OK, sorry, I need to say OK to all the effects I've just done. Now I go back to magic eye. That's my picture with the white background. The white background, the colour of that can be changed. It's independent of the top picture, so you could highlight the background colour by just clicking it, and then we could choose a I can go up to edit, actually edit fill layer, and I can do fill. I'll choose a colour from here, same idea as the others, say OK with the colour, and I've now got a red background. Okay, so I know that's quite complicated. I've introduced you to a lot of concepts there in the 20 minutes I've been chatting. So it's just using the Marquee tools and using the paint bucket and the colour swatches and a new layer, and just go through styles. Just have a go, take it slowly. There's no rush on these sort of things. You can pause my tutorial, start it, pause it, start it, pause it, and just have a go at getting used to where things are hidden under window, and also at the bottom right hand side you'll have layers and effects and styles as well, so you can try accessing the different points slowly and have a go. Just take it slowly though. Okay, thanks for watching.